Oh, howdy all, grab yourselves a beer, it is time for some Path of Exile discussion. In this video, I want to talk about the Crown of the Inward Eye Prophet Crown. This is a unique helmet that drops from Sirus, the Awakener. It's one of the more common drops from the fight, and as a result of it being so common, it is very cheap. I think it's criminally underrated at the moment, and I think in a lot of ways it is the Atzari Flask of the Sirus encounter. It's the unique item that every build should seriously consider using, although obviously not every single build will use it, but every build should seriously consider it. And I also think it is the best helm to enchant in the current League economy, which is interesting because there's one person that seems to have had this idea and appears to have listed dozens and dozens and dozens of this helmet for sale with all sorts of different enchants on them. And I don't know how many of them he's actually selling, but I assume it's quite a lot because it is such a strong helmet. So, what does it do? Firstly, 333% increased armor and energy shield, which just puts it to 970 and 130 as the baseline stats. It's always 333, there's no roll range there. Now there's a big roll range on the next mod, 9 to 21%, and this is a very important roll. Increased maximum life, mana, and global energy shield. If you're going to actually use this helmet, I strongly suggest divining it until it's at least 18% here, which on average, to get 18 or better, means that you want the top 4 from 13 possible rolls, which is going to take on average 3.25 divine orbs to hit. However, your luck may vary. It's very possible to sink 8 divines into this item and never see an 18 or higher roll. Ultimately, for min-maxing, you get, especially once you've bought one that's got the perfect enchant on it for you, you're probably going to want to invest enough to get it up to a perfect 21%. Then it's got these 3 cryptic lines: Transfiguration of Soul, Transfiguration of Body, and Transfiguration of Mind. And these are new mechanics that were added during the Blight League, and they were available only as special disconnected nodes on the passive tree, so ones that you could only get through using anointments. And they're explained here on the POEDB site, which is a fantastic resource. This is their list of all of the new uniques found in the Metamorph League. And Transfiguration of Soul. Increases and reductions to maximum energy shield also apply to spell damage at 30% of their value. Body is the same thing, except it is life boosting your attack damage. And Mind is similar, but it is mana boosting everything, all damage that you do. So, if you're playing a build that is a life-based, that has 160% increased life on the passive tree, and that has 20% on their Crown of the Inward Eye, and that has 10% on an Elder Body Armor, then you're looking at 190% increased life. That means you're going to get 57% bonus to attack damage from Transfiguration of Body. That's pretty damn good. That's better than Tier 1 weapon elemental damage. It's something that is going to be a considerable buff to damage. There may be alternate helmets that you could use, like Fractal Thoughts, that will get more damage, but most of the ones that do more damage than a Crown of the Inward Eye do so at the cost of providing no life. Getting 20% increased maximum life is huge. If you're on a spellcaster build and you're using Energy Shield, then at that point you're looking at perhaps having 150% increased energy shield on the tree or more, 20% on your crown. Again, you're looking like getting 50-55% increased damage from this helmet, as well as getting a decent amount of extra energy shield. That's juicy again. Likewise, if you are playing any character that runs Mind over Matter, you're probably stacking a modest amount of increased mana on the tree, and you also get 20% here as well, and that will provide more damage again. So for this reason, I think that this helmet provides a good balance of defense and offense at the expense of having no resists. If you can get your resists elsewhere, and face it, in today's Path of Exile, that's pretty doable, then I suggest that you give serious thought to using Crown of the Inward Eye. Now, what does that mean in terms of enchants? Enchanting this seems to be a very solid choice as far as I go, because its mods are so build agnostic. The only builds that this is actively bad on are life-based spellcasters, i.e. ones that don't stack energy shield at all, or energy shield-based attack builds. Those don't gain much from Crown of the Inward Eye. They still get the benefit from Transfiguration of Mind, but they probably don't stack mana on the tree. and they'll get a little bit of a boost just by virtue of picking up some hybrid nodes. You know, a lot of life builds will have some nodes that provide both life and energy shield just by chance. So they'll get a little bit of value out of it, but all told, I think it will be a pretty mediocre overall package if you're playing a character that is running one of those types of builds. But in a trade league, even if you're playing an energy shield based Scourge Arrow build and you have no real use for this item yourself, there are plenty of other people playing life based Scourge Arrow builds that would be more than happy to take a Crown of the Inward Eye with a premium Scourge Arrow enchant off your hands, and would be more than happy to pay a decent premium for doing so. So for that reason, I strongly suggest that you consider putting Crown of the Inward Eye on your shortlist of items that you want to enchant when you're running Eternal Labyrinth, especially if you're planning to run the endgame grind in the Eternal Labyrinth. In terms of pricing it, I suggest that you purchase Crowns of the Inward Eye from other players. You'll get some of them dropping if you run Sirus much, but you won't get enough to really do this seriously. However, purchase them from other players and then price the premium enchants in the multi-exalt range and the mid-tier enchants, the things that are, if it's the best enchant for a skill but that skill is off meta, then at that point price it at 3 or 4 exalts. So a good example of that would be 40% increased damage for elemental hit. That's an off meta skill, even though I'm using it, and it is still the best enchant for many builds that use elemental hit. Alternately, there's attack speed for elemental hit is another example. Another contender. It's an off meta skill, but it's a pretty solid enchant on it. If you get a bad enchant, then just roll over it. So if you get something like, let's say, increased area of effect of Righteous Fire, I think is currently pretty bad, although I could be wrong on that front. If you get something that is just not wanted by anyone, then re-roll it. And then just put them in your stash tab and hope that someone is looking for exactly that enchant. Anyways, if you've got any comments or questions, or especially disagreements, if you think there's another more universal helmet that you think is better than this one, then fire away below. Otherwise, I'll leave it there. I hope you have a good one.